3, and he is a little embarrassed to admit this, but he is a yoga man. And he might not look like the stereotyped yoga guy, but he is definitely grounded in yoga. So let's welcome Kenny.
Thank you. Oh, fuck. All right. I just realized I haven't been in a group this big in a while. And thank you for the breathing exercise. I usually come in so anxious, I can't stand it. I just smash a monster and come up here and pace back and forth. So this will be a different experience for me. But it's funny, I was on my way here and I was sitting there and I was kind of tearing myself down inside. I was going, fuck, you're a hypocrite, because the last little while has been a tough time for me in recovery. And so usually I want to come in and give a story that's inspiring and uplifting, but that's probably not going to be the story you hear today. And so I'll just start at the beginning. For me, addiction and alcoholism has been a part of my life since the day I was born. My parents met in a treatment center and decided to elope. And my dad was a heroin addict, and my mom had tried to commit suicide taking pills, and so they decided to run off and start a fucked up family. And that's what they did. I had 2 sisters that were older than me. We lived in rural Wyoming. It was really just like ranches and towns of 60. And so I didn't have much like real world experience. My mom and dad divorced when I was 2, and she remarried just to like a violent alcoholic. And most of my childhood just looked the same. I don't remember most of it. It was traumatic. I mean, there was a lot of violence in my home, and we moved around a lot. We get reported to DCFS and then just pack up and move to another town. My parents were pretty uneducated. They didn't have a very pretty life themselves. I didn't know my dad very well. He'd come around like once a year, and I'd sit outside and watch for, this white Ford truck with a red tailgate. And so I'd just sit there and stare at the bar when I knew he was coming and just watch for his truck, and then go over there, hang out with him for a day, and then he'd leave, and that was pretty much it, man. We had a suitcase that we used to put all our little assignments in when we do something for our dad, and then he'd come by once a year drunk as fuck and pick it up. And that was really it. When I was 8, he kind of came back into our life, moved to the same town that we were living in. We started to build a relationship a little bit, and then when I was 9, he died in a drunk driving accident. He wrecked into a liquor store, ironically, and died. And so that was it. My mom's husband, he was a hard worker, and so he provided for our family, but he was just an angry individual. When I was 12, we lived in this town called Deaver, Wyoming. They had like 60 people that lived there, and there was like 8 kids in the whole town, and we'd go out and we just cause problems. Man, we'd go out and break windows out at this like wrecking yard, and then we'd steal cigarettes and we'd chain smoke down at the baseball diamond. So that's what we were doing one day. We went down there and we just light a cigarette and we pass it around and then light another one until everybody was just sick. And I looked over and my stepdad was there, and I'm going, fuck, man, I had to be the one holding this cigarette right now. And so he came over and he caved my face in. He broke my orbital bone and my femur, and he stomped me under a fence, and it lacerated my liver. And I got put in the hospital, and that was kind of the breaking point for my mom. It had never been really that serious before, and so they divorced and we moved to Ogden. And like my family has like one white sheep in the whole family, and that's my aunt. So my mom moved out here to be closer to her, and within like 90 days we were homeless, and my mom was shooting meth, and she just kind of disappeared, and I was on the streets. And I wasn't a street smart kid. I'd been really shy, and I kind of had just shame and embarrassment my whole life. I never really felt as good as anybody else, and so I just disconnect from people. I didn't really talk to anyone. I lived in my own little universe. And so when I was 12 years old and homeless, I just kind of slept in a grocery store bathroom or a laundromat. If it was cold outside, I'd go in there and curl up next to a dryer. And it started out pretty innocently, man. I'd get high any chance that I got, which wasn't a lot, and drink alcohol. And I fell in with a group of other like problem children, I guess. And at first I just started stealing food and socks, and then I started stealing bikes, and next thing you know I was stealing cars. And when I was 13, I got arrested for burglarizing a bunch of cars, and they put me in juvenile detention. And I went in there and I couldn't fucking breathe. Like, I'm in this cell, and in detention they don't really let you out much, so I was just sitting in there pacing back and forth, going, man, I got to get out of here. I can't fucking handle this. And it was terrible. I felt claustrophobic. And so they came to me and said, look, if you plead guilty to everything, we'll let you out and you can go to your aunt's house. I was going, show me where to sign, just get me the fuck out of here. And so I pled guilty to a bunch of felony charges if they were committed by an adult, and I didn't realize like the impact that it'd have on me. So I pled guilty to like 35 felonies, and they released me. I went to my aunt's house, and it was so uncomfortable being there because she had 4 sons that were close to me in age, and just seeing their life and the difference between theirs and mine, it just made me feel dirty. Like I felt like I was taking a handout, and I'd rather feel anything than that, even if it was just the kind of loneliness and hopelessness of being on my own on the streets. And so I ran from there and just went back to the streets, and I ran for like, I think a year, and they arrested me. And I had this gun that like would fall apart if you wiggled it funny, and I never had even bullets, but it made me feel kind of empowered to have it, and I felt powerless my whole life. And so I got arrested with that, and they put me in juvenile prison. I was there it was Mill Creek in Ogden. I was there for about 17 months, and they released me, and by that time my mom had kind of gotten this apartment with some new guy that she was with, and so I went there, and within like 3 days I was using, and I got arrested and put back in this juvenile prison. And when I got there, it was a different experience in youth corrections. Like it was, we went and played basketball every day, and we'd eat as much as we wanted, and life was a lot fucking easier for me in there. And comparing it against everything that had come before it, I was like, this isn't that bad. And I got institutionalized pretty easy. And after I was there for another 13 months, and they released me to, I'd done all they have these packets that if you do them, you get a quarter credit. And so I just knocked through as many of them as I could, and I graduated when I was 16, so they terminated me from youth corrections custody, and my mom had moved back to Wyoming. And so I went back there with her, and she was still living the same lifestyle out there, and I started drinking. And 5 days after I got there, I stole my stepbrother's car and emptied his bank account, and I came back to Ogden, and it was like a month and 8 days, and I got arrested for having possession of forged checks. And so in Utah, congressionally, anytime you catch a felony after being in secure confinement, they refer you to the adult system. They screen you. They either certify you as an adult or they just keep you in the juvenile system. And so I went in there, and when they had my hearing, I was just lost, and I didn't really care about anything. And they asked me why they shouldn't send me to prison, and I just didn't really have an answer. And that's kind of what I said. I said, I have no idea. I don't know why you shouldn't really. Maybe you should. And so they sent me to prison, and that is not youth fucking corrections. Like I got there, and it was like they walk in and they put me in this. They had like an overflow section where it was fucking. It looked like a submarine door, where they turn this thing and they open it and you go in there, and it was nothing but cinder block. It was dark, and they have 4 cells on each side, and they put me in there. It had this big metal door, and then you go in about 4 feet, and there was like bars and a door on that, and they open it up, close it, and they literally had a fucking padlock that they put around that, and they'd lock it. And so I'm sitting in this cell by myself going, what did I do? Like, how in the fuck did I get here? And it was like, the building's like 100 years old. They got rats in there where you like throw Cheerios out there and these rats will come eat in it. It was scary. Like when I was 16, I was always a little guy. So I was like 115 pounds, 5'6", and I was just crying in there going, fuck man, how did I get here? And I was only in there for about a week, and then they put you out in another section where you're around other people. But I was pretty impressionable. I didn't have a sense of identity. I had no real principles that I lived by, and so I got involved with gangs right when I got there. And I was really fortunate to have people that I knew that were in prison at the same time, and so I got involved in gangs really early. About 6 months after I got to prison, me and another gang member just kind of earned our stripes, went and jumped this other guy. And when I walked in there, when I was a kid, it would make me sick to my fucking stomach to even think about punching somebody in the face. I just wasn't an aggressive person. And so I went in there and I just kind of closed my eyes and swung as hard as I could. And the guy didn't even know I was there, and he fell on the ground. And the other guy kicked him in the face, and he was brushing his teeth. So a toothbrush stabbed into his throat. And we ended up getting in trouble for it, and they came and they took me to Supermax, and that is not a fucking good place at all. They put you in a camera cell where every hour on the hour you have to get up and stand up and you say your number and your last name just because you're on suicide watch. And they take all your clothes and they just put you in there with, at first you don't get anything, like, and you're stripped naked. The back window is spray painted black so you can't see outside. And then on your front of your door they put a magnet over it so you can't see out your window, and they have sandbags around your door on the outside so you can't flood your cell. And anytime you get a meal, you have to go to the back of the cell and get on your knees and cross your feet and then put your hands like this, and they'll throw a little sack lunch through the cuff port on your door. And I was over there for 9 months, and it wasn't like, you start to lose your mind a little bit. You can't really, for me, I was a high school kid. I was a junior in high school maybe, and the only way that I could kind of keep myself sane is I would lay there, and you're not like that the whole time. Eventually you get a mattress, and then you get like these little LDS like newspapers that they'll throw under your door, and so you have something. And I'd just sit there and I'd pretend that I had a different life, and I'd imagine like what kind of house I'd have and what kind of family I'd have and what kind of job, and I got really fucking vivid to where that was my reality. I'd sit here and I'd create this little fake universe in my mind of what I wanted my life to look like, and I'd have friends and people that loved me, and that carried me through that 9 months. And then they let me out of there, and I went to regular max, where you're out for like an hour and 15 minutes every other day, and you get a roommate and a TV, and so it wasn't nearly as bad, but I didn't realize the impact that it was having on me psychologically. And then I don't remember how long it was, but I ended up getting out of there and going home, and I didn't really have a home at that point, so I just used a fake address, and I got out, and I remember like I had that same feeling that I had in that little detention cell where I couldn't fucking breathe. That's the way I felt when I was getting out of prison, and the only thing I really knew was to get high. That was the only thing that took that feeling of feeling so small away. And really the only time I felt okay is when I was high or when I was in a prison cell. And the next 10 years looked pretty similar. It was really violent. They ended up having a really bad stabbing in 2000, and so they put every gang member in this part of the prison, and they just pretty much let us have it out. And so it went like that for about 10 years. It was the gang unit, and so every 2 weeks, like they'd switch the cells, so it was 12 cells on top and 12 cells on bottom, and you'd come out like this for 2 weeks, and then like this for 2 weeks, and then you'd come out like that for 2 weeks. And so every time it switched, there'd be some rival gang issue, and people would come out and there'd just be gang fights and stabbings, and the prison didn't really want to admit that this was a terrible idea. And what happened in 2000 is that these 7 guys got stabbed in their sleep, and they didn't go say anything immediately, so they had to life flight them all to University Medical Center, and it cost them a bunch of money. And so with the gang unit, the plan was to put everybody together and just watch it really closely, so anytime there was violence, they could respond before it got so serious they had to helicopter anybody. And that's what happened, really. There'd be stabbings every couple weeks, and they'd get in there really quick and stitch you up. And that 10 years, that's really what it was for me. That was every day of my life. And I didn't really understand trauma, because on the surface, I didn't really think about it. That had just become part of my routine, and I'd kind of climb my way to the top of this gang, and I led a lot of people astray, and I didn't realize that, like, I had people that I loved very much that I would give a knife to and tell them to go stab somebody, and I didn't think about the impact that it was having on their mom, that they didn't get to go home, or their kids, and my whole life was centered around this identity that I created for myself in prison. And I only got 20 minutes, so I'm trying to go quick. But so that 10 years was just really fucked up. And so at the end of it, I got out, and I got an opportunity to go to treatment. I went to the Haven in Salt Lake, and when I first got there, it was exciting to me. Like, I felt strong, and I was around a bunch of people in recovery, and I was about it. Like, my whole heart was invested in it. And 30 days into it, they gave me a home pass to go home to my family, and they were still living kind of the same lifestyle. And I went home, and with the intention of just going there and telling my family what recovery was all about, and everybody was going to get sober. And I was high as fuck in about 3 hours. It crushed me. Like, I wanted to stay sober so bad, and I felt so strong, and I put myself in a bad situation, and I was high again. And it made me feel like there was some part of me that was a little bit more broken than most. And And so I just went back at it and I started using for about a month and a half. I got arrested and taken back to jail. And this was like my third violation. I was on federal supervision. I got sent to the federal prison yard. And I was going, man, I got to have something really good or he's going to send me back to prison. And so I planned this little speech before I went in there. And I go in there and the prosecutor goes first and he's like, look, the only time this guy isn't committing crimes is when he's in jail. And so the only real ethical thing to do is to put him in a fucking prison cell. And then my attorney got to speak and he's going, well, yeah, but he's had a really hard life. And they're going, well, we've heard that one before. Like, this isn't your first time in here. And so they gave me a chance to speak. And I had this judge, his name was Judge Benson. He was like 100 years old, but he was a good dude. And he'd been like appointed by the prison. The president of the United States appoints these judges. And I go in there and I was planned it all out. I was going, Judge Benson, can I ask you a question? And he was like, sure. I said, well, do you know how to play the violin? He's going, no. I was going, well, if I came in here right now and asked you to play the national anthem on the violin, do you think you could do it? He's going, probably not, man. I don't think I can. I was going, well, what if you want to play it more than you've ever wanted anything? Like, more than you've ever wanted anything is to play that song. Do you think you could play it then? He's going, still probably couldn't play it. And I was going, well, what if I came here and I said I was going to take your fucking life away if you didn't play it? Like, could you play it then? And he's getting kind of upset. He's like, I don't know what you're getting at, but I said, well, but I don't know how to play the violin. I was going, me neither. I don't know how to live life. And that's what it is to me. You guys parade me in here every couple of years asking me to play this song for you. And bottom line is I don't know how to fucking play that song. And he said, well, man, I didn't listen to much of what you just said because all you do is lie to me. And I was going, oh, fuck. Like, and it was a manipulation. Like, I wrote that with the intention of not going back to prison. And it wasn't until years later that I realized how serious it was for me, that I was actually speaking truth from the heart, and I was just too blind to see it. And he said, well, I can only give you 2 years right now, but I wish I could give you 4 years because you're a problem. You hurt everyone that gets close to you, and you commit crimes every chance that you get, and you just never even try. And he said, and I don't know if you've manipulated these people or if they see something that I don't see, but they're willing to take you back to the Haven. I'm going to give you a shot. And I was happy as fuck. And so they take the cuffs off me in court and just release me right then. And I kind of thought I was going to prison for 2 years. And so I was super happy. And I got back to treatment. It wasn't the same experience, man. I didn't feel strong and happy and excited about recovery. I was scared to death. And at first, I thought, man, there's no chance at all. Like, I don't have a chance at all. Like, and it kind of evolved from there. And I got to this point where I was going, man, I really don't think I can do this, but maybe I got a shot. And then from there, it went to, I'm pretty sure I can do this, but maybe I can't. And then at some point, I realized that if I do what I have to do every single day, and I never lose that motivation, that I'm going to be okay. And so I graduated treatment, and I just volunteer there every day because I didn't really know what fucking some of the street signs meant. And the world felt so like complex to me, and so I just stayed close to this treatment center. I'd go up there and clean for them or cook for them or whatever they needed me to do. And for like 2 months I did that. And then I told the director one day, I was like, yeah, I got an appointment at 3, so I'm going to leave early. And she's going, dude, you don't even fucking work here. You show up every day. You want to leave at 3 o'clock, go ahead, man. So I left, and I came back the next day, and they gave me a job just making like minimum wage, 24 hours a week. And I had child support because I had a kid that I didn't really know. And so every 2 weeks, my check would be like $62. And I fucking never felt so rich because I felt safe. Like I was living in sober living and they kind of waived my rent. And so I didn't have a worry in the world. And I ended up meeting a girl that was in recovery, and we were both brand new. But the world was so new to me, like, and taking away that feeling of needing to get high or being afraid of going back. Like, it took that out of my life, and man, the world seemed like such a magnificent place to me. And my first year of recovery was the most amazing time of my life. I didn't really have a struggle at all. I ended up getting her pregnant pretty quick and getting married pretty fast, and I got a job after that working at this call center, and it was selling like credit card machines, but I was just fucking good at it. So I was making like $100,000 a year. I had a brand new Cadillac, and I was going, fuck man, I wish I would have known this before, you know? And like real life's pretty good. And so things were great. I did that for my first year, and then me and a really close friend of mine, the day my baby was born, decided to start an intervention company. And we've been watching these videos from my friend who's actually from Utah County. He'd started an intervention company out in California. His name was Tad Stringham. Really good dude, and he had this like intervention company that was extreme interventions, and they did like scared straight style interventions where you have some tattooed dudes just on steroids and they're screaming in your face and shit, and so these people get scared and then go to rehab. And so that's where we were going. We're going to be that dude, like. And so we started this intervention company, man. We didn't make a red cent. Like, we didn't know how to market ourselves. We didn't know who needed interventions, and so we just started helping as many people as we could. And we helped people get into treatment. We'd sit here and negotiate scholarships with different rehabs in Utah, and so we did that for about 3 months. And I'd quit this job where I was making really good money, and I had a brand new family. I was getting scared. I was going, man, I don't know. Like, I had a little money saved up, but that shit was going quick. And doors just started opening for us. The treatment center started contracting with us, just do some of their marketing, and then they'd hire us to do interventions. We started doing like public speaking all over the country. I went and spoke at the White House, and things were good. And we did that for about a year. And then we decided to start our own treatment center. And at first I thought, man, we just need to get some clinicians, rent a building, and fucking save the world, you know? But there is so much more to it than that. Like, you gotta write policy and procedure and intake packets and employee manuals and all this shit. We didn't know what we were doing, so we literally started that treatment center just on Google. Like, we would Google what's next. And then we just went and did it, you know? And at first nobody really believed in it. We're like, hey, we're gonna start a treatment center. And they're going, yeah, that's cool, man. Like, and we fucking did it. Like, we had $10,000 at first, and it was weird. It was kind of spiritual. Like, I met this guy who got these 2 people into treatment, and I saw him at an AA meeting. He said, so what are you guys doing? And I was like, I went into my spill. I was like, we're gonna fucking start a treatment center. And he gave me $100,000. And I was like, what the fuck? And then we were driving around just calling different buildings, and this was before we got the money. And we're going, look, man, yeah, we're looking for a building to do a treatment center. And I met with this other dude, and he was about fucking 100 years old too. He comes in, he was an attorney named Larry Long, and this dude, like, he has a big ass cowboy belt buckle on, like some old ass clothes. And he sits down, and I give him this little spill, and he's got this 3-story building downtown Salt Lake. And I tell him, and he's like, well, that's funny, because, man, I just celebrated 29 years in Alcoholics Anonymous. And he gave us this building for $10 a month. And then about 6 weeks after that, I'm sitting here giving this spill to this dude I'd met 3 times, and fucking gives me $100,000 to start a treatment center. So the next thing you know, we got a fucking treatment center, and it took about 4 months and $250,000 more dollars, because after he gives us the $100,000, we blew through that like some real fucking addicts. Like, that shit was gone. We hired people, and we got like these pictures commissioned where they painted on these like wooden blocks, and so we had like pictures of fucking Tupac and Gandhi, and it was cool though. Like, but then we went to him and we're like, fuck, man, I think we're gonna need a little more money. And so he gave us more money, built this treatment center, and while I'm doing that, I got this marketing company still, and then I started a real estate company, and we do redevelopment, just kind of flip houses. And so at first, I mean, it was a heavy lift anyway. I spread myself pretty thin, but over the years, the next 2 years, I just worked myself into the fucking ground. Like, it started taking more and more attention, and me and my business partner kind of went separate ways, so I had all these on my own, and as they grew, I needed to take away from something. I started taking away from my recovery. I stopped going to meetings as much. I stopped working with sponsees as much. And then my wife relapsed. And I was a fucking interventionist. And so I knew what you were supposed to do. And I was like, I'm not doing it. I wouldn't leave her, you know. And for 10 months, I'm sitting here begging her, going, look, fuck, we can't do this. Because she came to me and said, I want to be honest with you, man. It's been eating at me like I've been using for the last 4 months. I'm going, how the fuck did I miss that? Because she uses meth. I'm going, how in the fuck did I not see that? Like, and really, it's just that she never lied to me before, and so I wasn't really watching for it. But then when she told me, I looked back and I was going, okay, I can see that. Like, you've been fucking charging Lime scooters in the middle of the night. Like, okay, I can see it, you know? but after that, so for the next 10 months, I'm checking for track marks. I'm pinging her phone. And at the end of that 10 months, I was a fucking wreck. And I ended up getting high. I used for about 2.5 months. And man, it was really hard to understand because I was a different person then, man. And my life looked completely different. And I didn't have one person in my life that I had from my past. And so when I started getting high, I was going, maybe I can pull this off, you know. And 2.5 months later, I got indicted by the feds on a 10 to life for guns and drug trafficking. And in the blink of an eye, like my fucking life was over. I'd created this reputation for myself. And it wasn't until later that I looked at what I did when I went to prison is I created a fucking identity for myself that kept me safe and it gave me security, and it really made me pretty comfortable in that environment. Like I was a leader of a prison gang, and so I didn't really have any fucking problems in prison. I did the same thing when I got out in recovery. I created this identity for myself that wasn't really fucking me. Like I didn't know who I was, and so I could wear this mask pretty comfortably, and that relapse killed me. Like fucking killed me. I wake up in Weber County Jail, and they're fucking like, right when I get arrested, they won't let me bail out. And so they held me in a holding cell and got an email indictment on me that was 10-year minimum mandatory. And when I went to court and they told me my charges, I was like, I'm smoking myself. I'm not doing fucking that much time again. I've already done 16 years. There's no way I'm going to go sit in a federal prison yard until I die, you know? And this judge, he was like a Donald Trump type judge. Like he's a mean ass, like 70-year-old white dude, and he's going in on me. And he's like, but I can't help but recognize everything you've done over the last 5 years. So if you dry out in jail over the next 30 days and then come in here and show me that you got a program that's paid for, then I'll look at letting you out. And that gave me just enough hope not to go kill myself because I was pretty serious about it. And so the 30 days went by and I had court and I was talking to a few people on the phone from jail, but not a lot, you know, like there weren't a lot of people that I'd been using for 2.5 months, and the 10 months that she was using, I was hiding from the world. I was running my different companies kind of in the background, and I was really ashamed and scared for her. And then when I started using it was so hard for me to reach out to somebody because I was going, fuck man, I'm that guy that people reach out to. I don't really have anyone in my life that I can call and say, hey, I'm struggling. And I did that to myself. I created this identity where I was problem solving for everybody in the world, but I didn't have anybody or any relationship that I could reach out to and say that I was fucking dying inside. And when I went to court, I walked in there and there were fucking 70 people that came to my hearing, and they were all people from the rooms of Alcoholics Anonymous, and they fucking showed up for me. And I had fucking politicians in there and POs, and they let me out to go to the Haven. And I went back there, and there were 10 treatment centers that showed up at my hearing to scholarship me and get me through treatment. It was really fucking humbling because I'd been gone for so long. I thought that I'd been forgotten, and the courtroom was just filled with people that had fucking, I'd either helped their kid or some relationship. And I traced it all back to the Haven where I got sober. And I realized everything good in my life came from Alcoholics Anonymous and the recovery community. My baby took his first steps in an AA meeting, and my whole life had been built kind of on the foundation that I found at that treatment center. And it was devastating to me. Like getting my first 30-day chip made me fucking sick. And it was at a speaker meeting, and they had this speaker. Am I running out of time? Okay, sweet. So he's the speaker, and he gets up there and he tells his fucking story, and I'd helped him. He'd gotten kicked out of treatment for using it. I'd gotten him and let him sleep on my couch, and so he's sitting there telling his story, and I got to get my 30-day chip, and I'm like, fuck. So I got up there and stared at the ground. I was like, I'd like to thank the Haven and thank God, and fucking went back in my seat and just tucked my head. And it wasn't very long, man. About 2 months after that, when I got my 90-day chip, I realized that I don't have to fucking be perfect. That I don't have to explain myself when I relapse. That people are willing to just accept me for who I am in that moment and love me through it. And that was really hard for me to accept. It made me feel like the dirty little fucking homeless kid that was taking handouts. And I've had to do a lot of work around that and let people lift me back up, and it's been a tough journey. not even a year ago. And I've got, I went and I worked as a lobbyist up at the Capitol for the last 3 years, and so I've been able to work on a policy level and get like Medicaid expansion and targeted adult Medicaid, and back up to politicians that I begged to write a letter for me to get me out of fucking jail. And really, they didn't judge me either. It was me judging myself. And this first year of recovery has been a lot fucking different, man. It's been painful and humiliating, and it hasn't been easy. My wife's still out there using. I'm a single dad. I got a 4-year-old baby and then an 8-year-old daughter and an 11-year-old son. The 11-year-old is the one that I wasn't really a part of his life. I've gotten a chance to now have full custody of him, and I just wake up every day and take care of my kids. I'm a lobbyist, and I do marketing for a treatment center in Bluffdale called Liberty Addiction Center, and I do a lot of business development for different treatment centers out of state. And really, I was able to rebuild pretty quick, and a lot of the landmarks that I used in the past to gauge how successful I was in life and in recovery, they aren't the same anymore. I was making $250,000 a year, but I wanted to blow my top off every single day. And I have a really good life today. I'm super fortunate, but it doesn't matter to me. Like, it doesn't matter what kind of car I'm driving or what kind of job I have or how many people look up to me. That doesn't fucking matter. Like, if I'm not doing the work every single day to keep in a connection alive with other people, my higher power is you guys. It's connecting with people that don't have a motive and that I don't have a motive with, that I just want to see them shine, you know? And that's what it's been for me. People picked me up off the ground because I wasn't strong enough to stand on my own, and really taught me how to live again, taught me how to be a dad again. And I have to work twice as hard this time to feel the way I did before. I have to make sure that helping people for work is different than being of service to other people. And sometimes just being of service just means listening to somebody who's struggling and letting people sleep on my couch, or whatever it is. Like, I look for an opportunity every day to make somebody's life better in a way that doesn't benefit me at all. And it was hard for me. I let my job become my recovery because I'm helping people every day, and it's just not the same thing. Like, I have to take a step away from that and really ask what my motive is. Is it truly to fucking extend my hand to somebody who's struggling? Because I know I wouldn't have made it without that. And I have so many people in my life that I probably will never thank, that have shown up for me at a time when I was teetering. I was ready to either kill myself or use. And something they said or something they did gave me the strength to stay sober today. So I'm really grateful to be here, but that's about it.